live.
All right, it's in the broadcast. Thanks everybody for coming. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, everybody, thank
Just
you.
Just
See you
gonna
next time.
test out the waters. Make sure it's
Ciao.
still wet. Yes, it is. Okay. I'm afraid of the deep end. So, all righty. It does feel good to be live. I made some comment on Threads. I was like, I don't talk a lot unless there's a microphone and comics in front of me.
Yes, I saw
So,
that.
which is not necessarily true.
Did you post
Put
this on
Revit in
Twitter
front
or
of me.
Threads?
Was that?
Did you post this on Twitter or Threads?
Probably on Threads. I didn't post anything on, or very little that I post on Twitter. I'm gonna do the old college try like I did with Hive, and I'll sort of solely, well, not solely, like 90% post on Threads, and I'll check in on Twitter and see if anybody's responding to me or tweeting me or something to that effect.
Right.
And then when I feel one is a little more comfortable than the other, I might spend more time there. But I'm not holding my breath. It is kind of funny. My daughter is on it now, and she is bringing the chaos. So
She's on what? Threads?
she's on Threads. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she hates Twitter. So
why?
Just,
it's the same thing.
Well, no, she's just never gotten on it. Like she has an account, but she's only like post like once a year or something like that.
I mean, so. Yeah, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So she never uses it. She uses Instagram all the time. Hello, Terry. How are you?
So much so that I wouldn't be surprised if Musk doesn't sue.
He is suing. He's already filed.
Oh, has he? Okay.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that he would remotely win, but
no. His lawsuit is former employees of Twitter went to go work for Meta, and they worked on this, and so it's proprietary stuff.
Right.
And Meta's response to it publicly is no one from who was a former employee of Twitter has ever worked on Threads. So now you have to prove all that in court. So, but yeah, that came out today. I saw that on the news. So yeah, it was just a matter of time.
I miss the old days of Google Plus.
Yes.
I really liked Google Plus, man.
I miss Comic Space when that was the thing.
There you go. Yeah.
We're talking about just talking to comic people. Comic Space was the place to be.
Yep.
That was where, for the most part, that's where Comic Addiction kind of got its start, as far as like the website did. Because that's where I met Angela Payman. She was the very first person to do anything with Comic Addiction. I met Paul there, Paul Stephen Brown, and I can't remember where we got connected with Anthony. It may have been on Comic Space or something like that, but yeah, I forget where we got connected with him. But yeah, that was the crew early on, and then we brought in Robert Takapina. He did podcasting with us, did some writing and stuff like that. We had a good group. One thing I was going to bring up on the show tonight. Well, let's go ahead and get started on the show, and then
let's go.
And then we'll do it right there. We'll talk about it right there at the beginning.
Okay.
So in 3, 2, 1. Everybody, welcome back to Boom Addiction. This is episode number 6 from season 4. Yes, season 4.
Episode 5.
I had to double check my notes there. Yep, season 4. So I'm Chris Martin, and with me as always is Mr. Ed Moore. Ed, how are you?
Pretty good, sir. How are you?
Are you checking your notes?
Oh, it is episode 6. I thought it was 5.
Yes, it is episode 6.
Oh, okay.
We skipped. Oh. We didn't skip. We just said we were going to do a couple episodes, and then we didn't.
We real-lifed there
for a
little while.
So, but yes, now we're back. We were gone for a couple of weeks, but in the future, nobody knows. So,
really.
Yeah. So, if you are checking this out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, we are live on all of those platforms right now because Threads won't post. We can't do live stuff there yet. So for those of you who are several years down the road, today's the second day of Threads.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
you're a
that's going
part
to
of
look like a year or
history
two from
now.
now. So
Yeah, it
you might
really
need to
is.
Google that one, and it may have been the win or the loss. So you'll have to. Terry, it's all a blur. It's
And
very true.
while you're Googling out there in the future, Google Podcast Pickle also, so it doesn't
Yes.
go away. You need to
Yes.
know Podcast Pickle.
I highly, highly agree. So, right there at the beginning of the show, I was kind of reminiscing about the early days of social media, comic space being one of those. That was sort of a takeoff of MySpace, but it was just for comic book folks, which was a good time. And so that's kind of where, not the birth of comic addiction, but it was where I started meeting folks who would eventually come to write on the site and would and be on the podcast. And I take it back. Paul Stephen Brown, we met on the Comic Geek Speak message
Oh, okay.
boards. That's
Okay.
where he was. I remember now because I remember his. I can't remember what it was, but I remember he had one the avatars, the custom avatars that you have.
Sir Avatars, yes.
Yep. So I never got one of those. I submitted one and then he stopped doing them. I forget why. But either way. So yeah, so the early days of that, back in the podcast started in 07. So the site probably started 05, somewhere around there. And before that was paperback reader. So that's kind of where it all started. So, but I was, you and I had been chatting during the in between times of episodes, and it came to realization that come July 31st of this year will be 10 years that you and I have been doing Boom Addiction together.
Oh, cool.
And so I could not remember. Was that the first time that you and I actually did a podcast together?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So that was the thing. That was my big question, because I actually was thinking about that today. I was like, no, I know you and I have done, podcast. We've done Comic Addiction, obviously. And we've done Aftershock. And then we
Right.
did the one episode of
The Bottom
the
Shelf.
Bottom Shelf. And did we do another one?
I don't think
I
so.
think that was it. We talked about
Boom,
a few.
Comic Addiction. Oh, yeah. Bottom Shelf, Aftershock. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
it for.
So, yeah, and I still say we had the best Aftershock podcast.
Oh, yeah, easily. We
by
also
far.
had the first.
We also had the first, yes.
So,
but yeah, we didn't have the longest running one. Unfortunately, Martin wins that one.
yep.
But
Well, they're not even doing it.
they're not even doing it now. Yeah,
for a while. So.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so Ed and I have known each other way before that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it is kind of neat. So as we're getting closer to July 31st and celebrating our 10 years of doing this podcast together, there's a couple breaks in there, but we've been doing this stuff together for 10 years now, so that's pretty awesome.
Yep.
So I'm sure we'll do a little bit of something at the end of the month, nothing big, but just sort of thinking about that and everything. I just think it's kind of neat. I like those kind of anniversaries, because it hit me, how long I've been doing podcasting in general, and
right.
You kind of start going down that road, and you're just like,
Yep.
oh man, but there's like nobody I've been, I'm still doing stuff with. Ed is the only person that will put up with me still. So here we are.
Not true.
So
I'm the only one you haven't pissed off yet. So
that's what I mean. Yeah. You've gotten me in my older, much wiser age.
Is that
where I'm not
more
as
mellow?
Yeah, much more mellow than I used to be. If you go back and listen to old episodes of Comic Connection, I was a firecracker. Not really. No. I can only handle one other voice in my head, that being you. There's too many. But no, Comic Addiction was a lot of fun with all the folks that we did have over the years. But I have really enjoyed doing shows with you, sir.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it quite a bit as well. That's why I
Well,
keep coming back, man.
that's why he's. That's
I
why
don't
when
get
I send
tired
the
of it.
invite to StreamYard, he still answers every
Yeah,
time.
that's it.
There'll be
That's it.
times where I'll send it and I'm like, "Is he going to do it today? It's today of the day. It's
Whatever.
today of the day." So, all right. Well, let's jump into things. See if we can remember how to do this show and everything.
Okay.
We'll jump first into FOC. That's what it is. That's what it's called. FOC. So I was looking for my button. I apologize. But there's so many little display things. So FOC's final order cutoff. This is your final chance of getting some of the goodies that will be coming out from Boom Studios a little bit down the road. These are due, your orders are due on July 10th, which is next Monday, but check with your local retailer, make sure that you know when their cutoff is. So they may be Saturday or Sunday or whatever. So just double check that. First and foremost, we have the very first issue of the Buffy Last Vampire Slayer mini series that's coming out. This is the new one. We've got a couple covers for that, an A and a B. I feel like there'll be more down the road, but this is a 5-issue miniseries, so I'm looking forward to checking that one out. We've got the third issue of Fence Redemption of 4. So we've got a cover A and a B on that one. Ghostlore, the Discover Now edition, volume 1 of the trade paperback. So we get that. Let's see, how many issues is that going to be? I forget. It'll be the first 4 issues. So that'll be $17 for that. So check that one out if you've missed any of that so far. Hopefully you haven't. And then we've got Grimm 12, cover A, B, and I'm sure there'll be a couple additional ones. House of Slaughter number 16 is cover A and a B, and then we'll get they're starting to get into that Spot UV variant.
Yeah.
So someone cracked the code on that one, and so like, hey, we need to start using this. Either that, or they bought a batch of it and they just have to use it all.
Right.
So,
We got to use that. It's been sitting in the warehouse, man. We got to use those covers.
We don't want it to go to waste.
Yeah.
But 16, I think it's 16 that starts, with the white masks. That
right.
arc. So that'll be pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. So but then we've got a cover C, which is Spot UV one. Then we've got a cover G. So obviously C, D, E, F. Probably a black and white, maybe a foil in there. Who knows? So it'll be something like that. But then we have the first issue of the new Met Cadets miniseries. Yes. So I'm looking forward to that one. We've got an A, B, and a C on that one. I know there's some additional ones that I've seen not solicited, like in press releases. So there'll be a couple more of that. But I am looking forward to checking that. Yeah, there's that foil one. Yeah, I forgot C was the foil. So I was like, I knew there was at least a foil one. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, number 8. There's a cover A and a B on that one. Power Rangers Unlimited, Called to Darkness, trade paperback. Let's see, what's that got in it? It's going to collect Power Rangers Unlimited, the Coinless, number 1. Power Rangers Unlimited Hyperforce, number 1. I know that those are more than double size.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure there'll be some additional stuff in there. It being a $17 trade, I find it would have to have a little more extra in there than just those 2. And then we have we only find them when they're Dead Deluxe edition hardcover and slipcase. That'll be coming out. Yes, if you want me to pull it up, I will show you that I have that on my order.
So that's the whole series, right?
That is the whole series. Yeah, it'll be 1 through 15. Yep.
Okay.
And I think $50 for a hardcover collected edition with 15 issues.
15. Yeah, that's not too bad.
It's not bad. So probably
$20 for a slipcase is like really?
I'm not doing the slipcase.
That's
I gave up on the slipcase. So anytime they do one of these books that I want to get, it's just gonna be the regular hardcover for me. So, but I am looking forward to getting that. So, and then what was it? This week the Coda, was it this week or last week? The Coda hardcover. I
last
haven't been
week,
to
I
the comic
thought.
shop in like 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think it was
So
last.
okay. So I haven't picked up my stuff yet. So hopefully that's still sitting. Hopefully that's sitting. And they haven't like, oh, I guess he's not showing up. So um, they're pretty good about not doing that. They'll keep my stuff. So, but yeah, a lot of good stuff coming out soon. All this is on FOC. So go check that out and let your shop know what you want to order. All right, moving on to next week. Do you want to cover what we got there? Because there's
Sure.
a lot.
Just a couple books and a couple trades, it looks like. We've got the third issue of Ghostlore coming out. I see A, B, C, D, E, 5 covers at least for of Grimm, the trade paperback, which I'm assuming is a soft cover since it's a trade.
Yeah.
Sirens of the City #1. I'm kind of looking forward to this one.
Mm-hmm.
They have me hyped about it. A through H and an FOC unlockable, which should be one of those letters, but I don't know which one it would be. HI. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's goodness, there's a ton of them.
But it's the same as the A, C, and F covers. Just I guess it's going to be painted differently. I don't know.
There's a lot of foils for this one. I noticed. Like, there's
Well,
a cover C is a foil version of cover A.
F is a foil of C and A.
Yeah, without the Virgin variant of that
Yeah,
one. Then
and
we get a
then
David Mack one, which is gonna be
oh
pretty sweet.
yes, this is something that he has been doing with all of his variant covers that he's been doing over the last 6 or 8 months that I've seen.
Mhm.
This either full face or the
Oh, yeah.
side view
Mhm.
of the face in
Profile,
these
yeah.
kind of shadowy kind of colors and something broken about it. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's there is something that has occurred in the man's life recently that this is how he wants to portray his art, and it's they're very similarly themed.
Yeah, and I don't have a hyperlink for that, but I was gonna at least pull up, if you haven't seen the cover art yet, so
Yeah,
but
that's
this
the
is
A and
yeah,
the
this is the A.
C and the F and the FOC unlockable. Like
Yep,
I say, only various kinds of paint on it is will be
yep.
the difference.
Get back over there. And then
B
we've
and
got
D are the same covers, and then E, G, and H are all different covers,
mhm,
different art. And to finish up next week, we have the Wind Book 3 Thrown in the Sky hardcover. So that is the hardcover for the third chapter, I guess, if
yep,
that's what you want to call it, for Wind. 5 issues for that.
yep. Looking forward to getting that one. Yeah, I mean, and we've heard rumblings that there's possibly more of Wind coming, but I don't know. I mean, it was like there was a little bit of rumbling for like a month or two as the last issue of this was coming out, or maybe after the last issue.
Yeah,
Then that
well,
was then that was it.
it's
So
it's hard to say. I mean, he's got so many irons in the fire right
oh, for
now.
sure.
And one of them might be more Wind. I mean,
Yeah,
and he just hasn't told anybody. It's
yeah,
hard to say.
you know,
But yeah, he is definitely neck deep in living his best life right now, from what I
hmm
can tell. He's yeah, doing a lot of
for
stuff that he wants to do and wants to accomplish. So
for
good for
sure.
him.
Yep, definitely. All right, so that's all that's coming out next week. So not a lot. So next week we are going to cover those books, as well as the books that came out this week, which includes Grimm, the last issue of Mosley, and Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. I think those
And something else. There were 4.
was it 4?
Yeah, I believe.
Okay,
Let me look here. It is
but we're going to cover those as well as the previews for
Fence Redemption 2.
Fence Redemption. That's right.
That was it. Grimm 11.
I knew that
Uh,
the second print for the first issue came out,
Right.
so that made me not think about the second issue. But
Mostly 5, and Once Upon a Time at the End of the World 7.
yeah. So, and for those of you hanging out with us on
Hey,
YouTube,
Doug.
Doug just showed up.
Hello, Terry Moore.
Hello.
And also, this week, the Magic the Gathering Soul and Stone hardcover dropped. I'm not sure what's in it.
I can easily.
Is that a mini series or deluxe hardcover collection? 2 standalone tales. Okay, a Johnny Goldmane. I remember that one-off.
Oh yeah.
And I don't.
The
there's not a-
Nari Lithomancer. Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember the name of the other one.
Yeah. But
Oh, here
yeah,
it is.
other stuff that came out this week
That was it. Nahiri the Lithomancer
Yeah.
and a Johnny Goldmane one-shots
Okay.
for both of those, and they collected them. So
Yeah, if you missed out, I think the Incorruptible, the
yes,
complete Incorruptible trade came out.
I saw it too.
So yeah, the Irredeemable as well came out. I'm not going to be able to pick those up for a bit, but those are 2 that I think are well worth checking out. Both written by Mark Waid. And are they both drawn by Peter Krause? I can't remember. Well, I mean, Irredeemable's drawn by like Peter Krause, Diego Barreto, Paul Zeta, Emma Rios, Howard Chaykin was on there. Marcio Takra. I always do his last name wrong. And then Damian Cusario. So I probably butchered that one as well. But yeah, so the Irredeemable trade collects 1 through 37, the Irredeemable Special #1, and Incorruptible 25 and 26. And since we're here, that was what did I just say? That was the Irredeemable, and then the Incorruptible was written by Mark Waid, art by Gene Diaz, Horacio Dominguez, Richo Tarquera again, Damian Cusario, Berlandio. Paul, that's wrong. I butchered that. Juan Castro is on there. I know who he is. I actually know who that guy is. And then Michael Babinski with covers by John Cassidy and Laura Martin. But yeah, this collects the Incorruptible series issues #1 through 30 and Irredeemable 33 and 34. Now, the reason that you have that weird crossover of why didn't you put the Irredeemable issues in the Irredeemable collection is that there's a crossover between the 2. So they do collect the issues, but you get in case you didn't want to buy the Incorruptible, you would have the issues of Incorruptible in the Irredeemable trade, so you didn't have to buy both. So
right, yeah, it's
which is great.
Yeah, it's both. You have 2 issues of Irredeemable and Incorruptible, and 2 issues of Incorruptible in Irredeemable.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that they did something like that. So, but yeah, I wanted to make sure we pointed that one out too. So, but yeah, so hopefully everyone has checked that out, because I do think of all the sort of older Boom stuff that we don't get a chance to talk about all the time. Those 2 were very, especially Irredeemable, very impactful while it was out. I mean, it was one of those books that everybody was talking about every time the issues came out. So, and again, Mark Waid writing it, so you knew it was going to be a banger every time.
Right.
I kind of hate saying that. I don't know why I said that. It's what the kids say.
Saying. Yeah, that's it, man. Trying to hang with the kids.
Trying to be cool. I've been on Threads all day, man.
And there you go.
So, all right, well, let's dive into some books to discuss that have come out in the last couple of weeks. You want to talk about that one first, since all right, we'll talk about it. If you're not watching us on YouTube or any other video
You should watch
show,
us.
you should. You should do that every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But what Ed is showing on his camera is the pen and ink for Something is Killing #1. Excuse me, Something's Killing the Children #1. Both of us
notes
told each other that we didn't remember.
Yeah.
Like, we flipped through that book.
Flipping through it, I'm like,
when did this happen?
I don't even remember this story, man.
It's crazy.
And this was, I remember when I did finally sit down to read this, I was like, I don't know, 8 or 10 or 12 issues behind, and read them all in one sitting.
Yep.
And it was, wow.
Yeah. So if you didn't check out, if you hadn't a chance to pick up this book, came out a couple of weeks ago. It is a comic book size book. Not like the previous pen and inks, but and we've talked about that in the past. But it's a regular comic book dimensions. But it's a thicker card. It's a cardstock cover, maybe a little thicker. But it's purely black and white in there to show the art in it, sort of the point of the format. And then you get notes at the bottom of the page talking about just decisions made with the art and the design and that kind of stuff. And if you're one of those folks who likes to sort of look at that or know that sort of information, it's such, one, you just get a chance to like really dive through just the literal pen and ink of the book, which is always great. And we've talked about before, Ed and I have picked up a lot of these in the past and really just sort of sit down and sort of pour over that art.
Man. Yeah.
And so, so it's a really good, I mean, it's only, I think it was $8, $7.99 cover price or something like that.
$6.99.
Oh, $6.99. Okay.
Yeah.
So, maybe it was the Spot UV cover that was $1 extra. Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, they didn't hook me. Sorry.
They didn't hook. They hooked me, unfortunately. But yeah, it's such a great book.
Back cover.
Yeah, that back cover is pretty sweet.
It is just by itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hopefully you checked it out. It did come with an A cover, a sketch cover, and then it came with a white UV, the crest, logo on the cover.
Yeah, like that.
Yes. Yeah.
The crest.
So that's so the cover is actually, it's an all white cover, but you've got that sort of embossed on top of it. So it's a pretty sweet book. So Something is Killing is always one of those books that I'm just going to try and pick up as many variants as I can. It's one of my top books I buy. So it's just, I indulge myself at this point. But yeah, like you said, you kind of came in on the book later in the run, and I remember picking it up, off the shelf. Like I knew I was going to have to pick it up, and didn't really, I knew Tynan's work from previous stuff, but just didn't know what to expect. And I remember sitting at the house reading it, and after I read it, it was just like, this is my new favorite book. Like, it was like, you can easily do this as a TV show. You can easily do this as a series of movies. It translates well. It's not, I didn't see any difficulty in people kind of getting into it. I felt it was just a really great issue. And I remember telling my son a little bit later in the day, because he saw it sitting on the desk, and he's always, looking for stuff to read of mine. And I was like, you would dig this, and it's going to, I said, you got to be careful, because it could be your new favorite book. And I don't think he's read it. I still don't think he.
Oh, wow.
I was like, dude, you should.
Give him probably the first trade so that he can.
I'm gonna unwrap the deluxe hardcover one of these days and and let him if he wants to sit down and take a look through that. So,
That's nice.
but yeah, so definitely go pick that up if sort of into that. If you're wanting just to pick it up as a to read. I mean, there's no dialogue in it. They took
Mm-mm.
all the words out.
Yeah.
But it's purely an art book. But you do get where there's comments and stuff like that, which I think are all pretty valuable to read and everything. So good book. Now we know that the mini Deaths of Layla Stars come out in August. They just announced the Berserker #1.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be coming out in October.
Same treatment.
Yeah. So looking forward to checking out some Ron Garney hyper violence and
Boy.
black and white.
Goodness. In that first issue. Now that first issue I remember.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was pretty big. So but yeah, good stuff. Now for those of you who have been part of the show before, I used to go back and show books that I have picked up recently and everything. But I did pick up a $25 long box mystery box that my local shop had, and my wife laughed at me. She goes, "You're not going to find anything in there that you like." I did find 3 issues of Mini Deaths of Layla Star in there, and
Okay.
so I had picked up all the issues when they were coming out, but like no store like had all the cover A's, and so I've got like a foil cover for like 2 or 3. I've got like cover A for #1. I think that's the only one I have cover A for. Maybe #5 or something like that. But yeah, so they had all the cover A's for
Cover
2, 3,
A's.
and
Oh,
4.
nice. Okay.
So I've got those now. So that's nice because that's what I'm really trying to do is just collect the cover A's for all the Boom stuff, and then all the variants for like Something is Killing. Yeah, but yeah, so it was nice. It was worth it. Now, obviously, those 3 issues are not $25, but at the same time, I felt like I got most of my money's worth with the books I did pull. So got some Green Arrows and stuff like that. But and there's actually some we only find them when they're dead. A couple of covers that I didn't have, but not critical, but fun to have. So
now, while you did not pick up comic books, you did pick up a new dog.
Oh, I did, yes.
I believe his name is Winston,
It's Winston,
if I recall.
yes.
So, all of you out there listening or watching, Chris is a new dog dad. So,
yes.
he should be congratulated on the assumption of responsibility for a new baby dog named Winston.
And he is.
So there you go.
We are currently crate training him, and
yes.
I took him to the vet yesterday. My wife and my daughter took him to the vet, and they sort of instructed them. Here's how you should be doing crating, or at least the way we recommend doing it. It was not way different than what we were doing, but it was different enough to. We were able to sleep last night. So
okay. Well, there you go. Cool.
So that was the big bonus. So I was like, hey, I like sleep. So
yeah, really.
Still was up at like 5:30 in the morning to take the dog out and everything. But my kids are doing a good job of stepping in and helping out when they can, take him out and everything. But he's super energetic. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm a very low key, kind of not energetic person. And so it's they said he'll eventually adapt to the family. I'm like, he's not going to adapt to us because we're all over the place.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think dogs necessarily do that. A cat maybe would, but
maybe,
I'm not sure dogs do.
So, but yeah. So Sir Winston or Lord Winston of Highview is what what his name is. So he has his own Instagram account that my wife runs, and my daughter runs the TikTok account. So that makes me happy.
That means Winston can get him a Threads account.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, he can, but
if he has Insta,
let's not go crazy now.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's what MJF's scarf has one, and Orange Cassidy's thumb has one.
That's so true.
What else? I forget. There's like 5 or 6 accoutrement
Yeah.
accounts that I'm
Yes.
aware of. I'm sure there are more, but so, if MJF's scarf has something to
Yes.
say,
I
I'm
mean,
sure
it does have a
Winston would have
personality
something
of
to
its
say.
own.
So, yeah.
So I was just thinking of everything that's been going on the last week or two with him and Adam Cole, and it just
Oh,
when you brought that up, it just made me laugh.
he is I don't like the
He is
character
so
that he
good.
portrays, but what they have him doing now is so funny.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. I
And
love
I
it.
will say, did you see this week's Dynamite?
No, no, but I've seen some highlights.
He sang happy birthday
Oh
for
yeah, yeah, I
Adam.
saw that. Yeah,
He sounded freaking awesome.
he's just
He
MJF's.
sounded awesome. But
He's
yeah,
just the man.
he is just goobering it up something
Oh
fierce with
yeah.
that
Oh, he's having a good time.
storyline, man. Shoo.
Slightly psychotic, but still good.
Yeah, he is like the dudest of dude bros. It's
Yes,
just
yes, for
oh,
sure. All right. So, what comics are we going to start talking about here? Since we've already
um
covered
well,
uh, the pen and ink.
let's go way back to the 14th and take a look at Ghostlore.
All right, let's do that.
Ghostlore. It's kind of interesting, I think, for me. I was not necessarily expecting it. Well, by the end of the book, I certainly wasn't expecting it to go where it had gone.
Mm-mm,
But
mm-mm.
I kind of wasn't expecting it to start where it started either. So both ends of the book, much less everything connecting,
Yeah.
really surprised me. It wasn't what I expected. Ghostlore. It's created by Mr. Cullen Bunn and Leo Max. Uh, divvying up the responsibilities. Cullen Bunn is the writer, and Leo Max, that's one word,
Mm.
Leomacs. I guess it's Leo Max, is the illustrator. It's colored by Jason Wordy, lettered by Ed Dukeshire. Shouldn't it be lettered by somebody named Wordy rather than colored? Right? Okay.
No, no,
Maybe that's why he didn't go into lettering, because it's like,
exactly.
no, that's too on the nose. I
Yeah.
left it. Several covers, three, excuse me, let's see, four covers. Nightmare in the Flesh is illustrated by Danny Luckert, and that's a flashback that excuse me, flashback that occurs
Mhm.
in the story. So,
Yeah.
designed by Grace Park. Now, the story open the artwork. I just the artwork in the first issue didn't strike me inside like it did this issue. Um, I don't, I can't attest to why, but just um, we start outside the house, we move to the front door, we move inside the house, we see the remnants of the um, yeah, a tragedy that has occurred, and we see the remnants of everyone paying their respects.
Mhm.
All the uh, pseudo and mourners that have come to the family after the death, spoilers, of the mother slash wife and the youngest child uh, in a car accident. The father and the oldest child,
Yeah.
they survived. They have been altered. I think maybe only one of them has been. We're not too sure on that, but they have been changed both by the experience and because of the experience. And I say that because it's actually two different things. But we see it's very interesting. Um, outside the house, it looks normal, looks like any other
Mhm.
house. When you come up to the door, it's got a probably a Christmas wreath. It looks like it looks like any other Christmas wreath hanging on the outside of a door that you'll see. Now you go inside and you start to see, well, maybe something's going on. There's a little side table that's a little cluttered. We zoom into the clutter and you see that it is sympathy cards, and you're like, oh wow, something's happened. Then you go into the parlor, which is where all of the flowers from the funeral have been deposited, and so the room is full of the flowers. Then you go into the kitchen, which I don't know if this is the same thing that occurs everywhere, but this scene in the kitchen definitely puts me in mind, and I believe they said something about this occurring in Appalachia. um, this is a Southern, to me, it's a Southern
Mhm.
phenomena. When everyone in the neighborhood comes to the house for either the wake or for whatever remembrance occurs, probably after the funeral, they bring a dish. Chances are it's going to be a casserole, something that the family can put up, freeze it, refrigerate it, pull it out, heat it up to eat so that they don't have to cook. Everybody does the same thing when they come. So
Oh, yeah.
get you get a pan of food from 15, 20, 30 different sources. Enough to
Mhm.
last you a freaking month if you can
Oh,
store it.
yeah.
And that's what this kitchen looks like. They have gone through all of the pans. Some of the pans are empty, some of them are not. But this makes me think that we are looking post funeral, which
Mhm.
I'm not going to get into the funeral. The first issue explains why there was need for a funeral. Um, I'm seeing probably 2 to 3 weeks at least of food here in this kitchen. So we'll say it's a month to 4 to 6 weeks after the accident, which is pretty much where the first issue left off.
Yeah.
Uh, the dad, whose name is Lucas, he's a pastor. He's having a very difficult time. His daughter is having just as difficult a time, but she is expressing it in a much different way. She was already in the throes of near full on rebellion from
Mhm.
the way that her mom and dad wanted her to live her life. So she is just continuing in that and is kind of falling back on that as her norm, this this rebellious lifestyle that she has. Her dad is really struggling, so much so that in one scene we see him take his Bible and throw it in the trash. So
Mhm.
he is going through, as those in the religion would call it, a crisis of faith. Now, one scene here is he's leaving after having thrown away. Looks like he threw his Bible away in the bathroom. As he is leaving, it may be the bathroom. I'll just go ahead and say it is. We see that he is um, something is occurring behind him. Now, I don't know if it's searching for him or if it is occurring and he is just oblivious. Well, it's occurring and he's oblivious to it, first of all. But there are tendrils coming out of the room in the direction that he is walking out of the room. Only the tendrils are running up the walls and up above the door. Very nice transom. I do also want to say these are very difficult to find and very difficult to maintain. So if you ever
Especially
get a
for a
hold,
bathroom,
well, if you ever get a hold of
the
a house
upstairs.
and it has a door with transom, that is money, dog. If you want to remove it, that's fine. Remove it whole because somebody will buy that puppy from you if you don't want it in your house. Money. Um, but yeah, something is occurring there. Uh, as we see a couple panels later, it seems to be encroaching on him, almost like it's the air, and he is feeling the weight of the air or something like that. We also see that it is affecting his daughter as she is looking for coffee to make coffee and finding none in the house because there are no supplies in the house. They haven't been out to buy
Mhm.
anything. So, but then we see that she just heads out to uh, take care of her life for the day. Whatever she's going to do. She does wistfully throw a look over her shoulder at her dad as if
Yeah, I
to
noticed
say
that.
she is thinking about him,
Yeah.
but it doesn't stop her. Um, maybe she's wondering what he is doing more than anything else, but it doesn't stop her. And she is very detached from him in this whole issue.
Yeah.
So she walks off somewhere into the neighborhood. Now I believe he sees her, and he kind of reaches out to the window as if to get her attention or to try to make a connection, almost like
Mhm.
maybe he wants to say something, but there's the window and he's inside and she's
Yeah.
outside. All of these very wistful feeling kind of things is in the picture here. And then immediately, that's the end of a page. Immediately, the next page, he is beset by something that materializes out of nowhere. Now, this is where the book gets kind of interesting to me because we have up to this point, we have a supernatural horror book, we'll call it, maybe thriller, nothing really, as an outside observer, nothing really horrifying happened last issue, I didn't think.
hmm
The accident that killed two of the family members, yes,
Well,
but
and the son's story
what?
was
But is that horror or is that more suspenseful? Is kind of,
eh,
yeah. So
it's
nothing hard,
debatable. Yeah.
supernatural. You're
There you
seeing
go. Yeah.
ghosts. I would call
Yeah.
that supernatural. Now, so we'll say that that's what the story is, but now in this issue, we are slammed with some traditional body
Oh, yeah.
horror, as well as supernatural. So that, to me, that's kind of an interesting mix because, ghosts are ghosty.
Yeah.
Body
Ghost.
horror, though, is usually, well, but body horror is usually tactile. In
Yeah.
order for it to really work, it has to be able to be felt, I think,
Mhm.
uh, particularly by the characters. But you have to almost feel whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whereas ghosts and potentially other apparitions, demonic, angelic, whatever, it's you interact with them in a different way. That horror is a different type of horror than I would imagine a body horror is.
Mhm.
But now we have both of these in one story. And so the dad encounters a spirit of someone that is deceased, which happened at the end of the first issue. It's nothing new. We know that that's going on. Um, this spirit seems a little bit more aggressive, um, affecting
Oh, for sure.
affecting Lucas physically at one time. Not like hitting him, but almost like it affects his physicality. It affects him inside his internal organs
Mhm.
is what it affects. Um, Not really sure if that's what the spirit meant to do or if it's the interacting between the two. Don't really
Right.
know. But as he is trying to help, or trying to understand what this spirit wants, I think again the spirit interacts with him in such a way that it starts telling its story. What happened to it? Um, we start off at some point. We don't necessarily know starting off, but this is the story that leads to the spirit's death. Actually, so we have that story, but in initially killing this person, something happened. It was killed in such a way, or by such a creature, that it infected the spirit.
Mhm.
And it infected the spirit in such a way that as the spirit is interacting with Lucas, and Lucas is agreeing to help it, it suddenly physically turns into this creature that embodies the body horror aspect of the story
Mhm.
and starts physically throwing Lucas around and destroying uh, parts of the house, rooms of the house. But it goes from being you know, oh, I can see you floating there, to break your jaw kind of encounter for some reason. I didn't necessarily see an explanation as to what it was that infected him. I know there was a little interaction with the patient, this ghost is a doctor, and the patient he was working on, the spouse of that patient, was trying to tell him some things, and did, but of course, to somebody who is steeped in medicine, which is very
Mhm.
science, this possessed demon darkness kind of thing that he was being told, I'm sure wouldn't compute, and that's basically what we saw. Um, don't know what this is really.
Yeah,
That
they never really gave you too much explanation on that one.
maybe they will, or maybe it's just
Well, it just all the
I don't
husband
know.
said was that her nightmares were coming to life, but it was some demon of something that was causing. Yeah,
Yeah,
his explanation was more just like, "This is how I understand it."
right.
Yeah.
So now Lucas is being attacked by this thing physically in the house, and Harmony is out just living her rebellious
Mhm.
life. She goes down to the drugstore. Although I think that let's see, is this the first time we see it? No, anytime we see Harmony, she is being watched by ghosts.
Mhm.
She doesn't see them, but they at the very least can sense her. They know that there is something about her that now has their interest. So as she's going about her stuff, you're always seeing off to the side or behind her people just watching her.
Yeah.
I interpret that as being ghosts that are
Yeah. Yeah, I took it that way too, yeah.
they're aware that she is different. Uh, and actually, here in the one panel, you see some people and they have big glowy eyes. So
Yeah.
that's kind of telling you they're definitely
That's your
off a little
giveaway.
bit. Yeah, yeah. Um, so finally, Lucas is able to defeat this ghostly infected parasitic creature, whatever it
Mhm.
is. And in defeating it, it kind of tears up the house in like a big, we'll call it ectoplasmic explosion. I have no
Yeah.
idea if it's ectoplasm. That's my throwback to Ghostbusters. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Protoplasm.
Well,
Yeah,
there was
I don't know.
something that was falling from the sky, so
Yeah, 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 following them around and whatnot. So she, Harmony, comes up to the house just as she sees the house be affected, and she runs in, runs up to him, and he's telling her, "Is this the? No, it's not the final scene, but um, it's all right, Harmony. I'm all right. I know what I'm meant for now. I realize my purpose," is what he says,
yeah.
and it's a very telling panel because there's visually there's more to the panel than just those words, but um, so he has found a reason to go on, whereas earlier in the book, I think a lot of that reasoning had been taken from him. He was running short on reasons to go on, but now he feels that he has found a new reason. So, um, as far as his story is concerned, there's a resolution, let's say, to his grief over his
Mm,
wife and son. We do not see that in Harmony yet. So I don't know, maybe next issue will be her,
right.
um, pardon, I don't mean this in a bad way, but her come to God moment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, now, outside, we find out that there is, uh, there's,
There's a congregation.
yeah, there's something fishy going on because there's a physical human who is aware, if not what specifically went on in the house, that something that interests him is going on in the house. But he can also see and speak to ghosts, just like
Mhm.
Harmony and Lucas now can supposedly since the accident. But they all represent another interest, we'll
Yeah.
call it. Um, you're going to tell him the intel was right. I've found them two more ripe for the picking. And he kind of does have this menacing look, but he doesn't have a menacing like inhabited or, ultimate evil or anything. He looks more like a messenger kind of bad
Yeah.
guy. You know, he's been sent out to find someone, find something, and report back to the boss when he's
Yeah.
found it. And that's the kind of evil that he is giving off here. And that's where the story ends. So living or supernatural, don't know, but there is another interest um, that is interested in Harmony and Lucas other
Mhm.
than just themselves. Some outside interest in, well, he says two. I don't know how he knows anything about Harmony, really. She didn't do anything in this issue. She did
Yeah.
not interact. She did not show at all that she could see these ghosts at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that is. Now, yeah, Lucas, I'm sure in what he was doing there in the story, he was probably giving off, or his house was giving off some major vibes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And, so anybody looking
I
for
mean,
those vibes could hone in on it.
he does say that, you know, whoever he sends the spirits back to, the ghost back to, he tells him that there was intel. So someone else gave them information. So maybe
Intel was right.
some of the other ghosts that were at the crash site in the first issue, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
because
they were.
what we're getting is this sort of network of entities.
Mm,
Like at this point, we're not really sure what's a ghost and what's not a ghost. Or, are there other folks that are like Lucas and Harmony? Obviously, if this guy is human, then yeah, he's got,
well,
because
he
he
says
says the
two
same
more.
thing
So.
that they were, hear my story kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so I mean, and maybe this is where the ghost lore part of it comes in, that there's
Maybe.
this, this has been going on for a while. There's more to it than just the two of them sort of stumbling into this ability. Um, Maybe the town's got, it's one of those things. It's a Cullen Bunn thing. So I mean, it's gonna sort of unravel and open itself like an onion, and we'll find ourselves crying by the time we get to the center of it.
Kind of like Neighbors, man. Neighbors got kind of weird too.
Dude, I don't. Let's go ahead and jump into that one real
Talk
quick.
about Neighbors. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a great segue because I don't know what the frick I read. Uh, so all right, so this is, and it's the fourth issue of 5.
Hmm.
So this is Neighbors number 4. Story by Jude Elson Estowell. Art by Letizia. I always mispronounce all these things.
I'll take a shot and say Letizia Caronisi.
Sounds good.
Colored by Alessandro Santoro and lettered by Becca Carey,
Yeah.
with logo designed by Carlton Hahn and overall design by Madison Goyette.
Yep. There's Madison. If she ever heard one of these shows, like, they say my name a lot. Like, yeah, because your name's on every book.
Well, her and Ed Dukeshire, although
Yeah.
he wasn't on this one. But
No. So what, I mean, if you've not been reading the series up to now, quick sort of thing is that we have this family who's moved into this house. The eldest, there's a teenage daughter, and then there's a young daughter, teenage daughter. It's a mixed family. The older daughter is the mother's, the wife's child from a previous relationship, and then the little girl is the husband and wife's own child, we'll say.
I thought she was from
His previous marriage.
previous relationship. Yeah,
That's
a
right. Yeah,
full
you're right.
blended family.
Yeah, full
So.
blended. Yeah. So so they get to this house to sort of get away from the big city or whatever. And the eldest girl becomes very strange. Now the reader knows things have been happening to her. She's actually, that's not even really her, maybe. You do find in this issue, exactly what happened, because that she was running into the woods, and then she fell, and then something sort of sucked her under the trees or whatever. And then so this issue actually gives us sort of her perspective of
Right.
what
Yeah. What
happened.
happened to her?
So she, finds herself, finding her parents, sitting at a picnic, and it's very weird that the little girl's not there, and she's noticing that she's not there and asking them questions, and they're just kind of like, "What's your problem?" And so she starts to sort of notice that things are not right in this sort of reality of what's going on. And then the closer she looks, and she realizes that like her stepdad is like half a person,
Yeah. Like a
literally.
like a facade.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you just see the sort of the front, and if you looked in the back, it was just
It's
flat.
yeah. There's nothing there. It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
So, a really good visual, but it's very disturbing as well. And then sort of the world sort of changes into all this sort of death and decay and whatnot. Um, Now, I'm under the impression, based off of what the old lady uh, tells the stepdad, that she's dead. That wherever she is now, she's not on the living plane.
Right. Right.
Now, it doesn't mean that she can't come back. It just means she's not currently
Right.
the girl that's running around saying that she's her is not her. Um, Now, the really really strange thing is the old lady is really trying to explain it, because previous issue the wife disappears, and so so it's now just the dad and the little girl, and the older lady, the creepy witch looking lady, from the previous issues, who you think may have something to do with, does have something to do with as far as knowledge goes, but she's not the bad guy.
Right.
She's the one who's actually trying to help, and so she's like, look, you need to, like, when they show up, you need to start saying the days of what the day is and stuff like that to distract them, and you need to be leaving bowls of milk out, so that they will take
All,
that, give them something to take, not so they won't take something on their own.
all in an effort to protect the youngest child
Yes, and so they've
from being taken.
she's already warning them she's not going to make it, because you don't believe anything that I'm saying. So, and in reality, I mean, a lot of weirdness has already happened to this family. So it's kind of the, if a creepy old lady is telling me all this stuff at this point, it's not that I would believe her. There's not even face value to this. It's like there's enough creepy stuff going on and weird stuff going on. I don't know, maybe at least listen to her, kind of thing. It's like,
Mm,
okay, well, maybe I'll heed a little bit of this. Um, but then, like she warns, by the end of the issue, the little girl ends up, there's no death scene or anything like that. She just sort of makes her way to wherever the oldest daughter is, just sort of on to the other side. Which was good, because I don't think that was even really necessary uh for the
oh,
story.
okay. Now, see, I interpreted that as she brought the or who is this? Is this the mother or the other daughter?
See, we don't know because they're in shadow. Like,
What?
we know that the little girl is led into the darkness by this bright dog entity.
The scene with the frog in the mouth.
Oh, that's the mother.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she brought the mother back because I
Yes.
believe that is in the here and now.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I didn't put that. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Because if you look at the trees and the
Yeah.
bushes and everything, it looks real. It's not like that land that the daughter was looking at when
Yeah.
she was with her fake parents. And plus she's doing all this stuff. She's doing a spell and
Yep.
using her blood and sticks the frog in her mouth to draw out the
And for
poison
some
and all
reason,
this
I'm
stuff.
thinking that took place in the past, but now that you've said that, I'm like, well, yeah, no, that makes total sense that that's happening right now.
Well, yeah, because she
Uh,
disappeared, and so this is the old woman trying to
Trying to
trying
bring
to
her
help.
back. Yeah.
Now, the scene okay. To me, the most confusing part is who is experiencing what,
Right.
because you can't tell the fake from the, or at least I can't. I can't tell the fake from the real,
Yeah.
but I do know that, the who is it? It's Casey
Mhm.
and her mom are somewhere.
Yeah.
Isobel and Oliver are here.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know that,
Yeah.
but I don't know who is seeing, who we're watching, if it's the real or the fake,
Right.
particularly for the first mother and daughter, because
Mhm.
it could be either one, the real
Yeah.
one or the fake one.
Yeah.
So that's two places, and then Oliver and Isobel, that would be a third place, and
Yeah.
so I have a hard time telling which one we're supposed to be in to understand what I am seeing
Right.
occur.
And that's why I'm confused because some of yeah, I mean, it's you explained it pretty good there. Um, like the thing that yeah, like the whole part about the spell and the frog and taking the food out, the taste out of her mouth and everything. Like now that you've said that, not that it makes a whole lot more sense, but at least time frame wise or spatially wise, where people are, it's one of those things. I think the next issue is really gonna. I mean, it's gotta have to bring it
Well, it's
home. So
yeah, it's gonna
the
have
last
to.
issue, um, it's one of those things that I mean, the previous issues have been good. I mean, it's been a weird kind of creepy story, and I mean, I expect to not know everything. I mean, and so this issue, which was sort of the build up to whatever the climax is, just sort of got for me got a little wonky, and so I don't know if that's just me
No,
not being in the right headspace
I
reading
don't
it.
think it's just you. It's and it could be a lacking in discriminating between these places in the storytelling,
Maybe. Yeah.
whether it be the writing or some aspect of the art to clue us in that, you know, the color palette shifts a little bit so we
Right.
know it's here instead of there, or it just
Yeah.
some kind of cue. Now, in some of these scenes, because they are so freaking weird, you can tell that it's not here.
Sure. Yeah.
So it must be whatever there is.
Yeah.
There's the first scene with the daughter,
Mhm.
where she first falls through with her parents. Then we get a scene with Oliver and Isobel,
Mhm.
with the old woman, right, where he tells her off.
Yeah.
And then immediately we go to, well, not immediately, but um, Isobel or Isabel, I guess maybe it's Isabel is how you
Isabel,
would
yeah.
pronounce it. Uh, Now she does this several times in the story, and maybe that's our indication. She says doggy as
Right.
she's on her dad's shoulder here.
Yeah.
So then the next scene we see those the Casey's freaky parents at a dinner party,
Yeah.
right? And then we go through this with Casey, and but are we supposed we're not watching Casey here, or we're watching Casey, not the daughter. We're watching the mother
We're
in that
watching the
scene,
mother, yes.
right?
Yeah.
That's what that scene is for.
Yeah.
Whatever she is experiencing, basically in the same place that her daughter is, the same dimension. Let's call it this
Yeah.
nightmare dimension. So she goes through the dinner party and everything, and we see that you can really tell that something is off because of the way that Oliver acts and is
Yeah.
treated,
Yeah.
and that tells you, okay, not real world here.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, we get to the
Like, I
end,
don't think she knows at that point that she's dead or wherever she's not in the real world.
right?
Like
She thinks that that's her reality,
she realizes it when she's talking to Oliver, like, "Oh, you were right." Like that isn't Casey. Casey's here. Like all of that starts to click and so that's sort of helping her understand what's going on. And then she goes after who she thinks is Casey. It ends up being the old lady who somehow is able to exist in both planes.
Yeah, she pulls her back
Yeah.
to our world, and that's
Yeah.
where she does her hoodoo with the little doll and the
Yeah.
blood and the frog thing. And then we see the fake daughter. I wish I could remember what Casey's daughter's name was, and I don't think they said it in the book anywhere. But
Oh, it's been
s-
a while. Yeah, it was
yeah, so
last
the
issue.
the
Yeah.
fake Casey
No, no, no. The
or
older
the
daughter's
fake
name is Casey.
oh, that's Casey. What's the mom's name? I thought the mom was
Ba,
Casey.
ba, 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 ba.
Okay, that's cool. Um, so the daughter is leading this group of weird people,
Yeah.
which she met in the previous issue,
Yeah. Yeah.
to the house now that only has Oliver and Isabel in it,
Yeah. So I'm
to do
thinking whatever's
something weird.
possessed her is associated obviously with those two. It's the neighbors. It's really that's the whole point of the book. It's whoever the real neighbors are, they're
Okay.
whatever this is.
Now here is something that I want to throw out there. Have you read enough of the type of fantasy to have run into the myth about fairies and doppelgangers?
Yes.
Okay. This panel
I
where
read proof. That was enough.
okay, where Casey is holding up the key in the
Yeah.
window showing that she
Mhm.
can get in the house, she has pointed ears.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be an elven feature or a fey feature, excuse me, not elven, fey. And so I'm wondering if that's what we're dealing with is a
I don't know.
fey incursion where they are taking over the people or capturing the people and
Mhm.
replacing them with
Right.
fey that are made to look like the people they're
Yeah.
replacing. And that is which is that's not as terrifying a possibility as this would lead you to believe,
Yeah.
but I could very well see that that's what this is. Um, we can see that she has really blue eyes too. I don't know if that means anything or not. I don't remember if Casey, like, well, actually, we saw her earlier. Wonder if she had blue eyes. No, she has
Mm.
green eyes.
Mm.
Casey has green eyes, which actually I was expecting like the hunters to come out or something like that with
Oh,
masks on because the eyes are so intense in
right.
several of the characters here. But yeah, Casey has green eyes, so right away you know that this is not Casey because this creature has blue eyes.
Yeah.
But she also has pointed ears. I noticed. I
Yeah.
noticed that right away as soon as I looked at the picture.
Yeah, I totally missed that, yeah.
So
Well, I
uh,
will say having this conversation with you about this has helped me enjoy this issue more. It wasn't that it was a bad issue, it was just not understanding a lot of stuff.
yeah, yeah,
So, in talking through it, obviously, is one of the benefits of doing this show. Um, but yeah, I mean, I knew once the last issue came out, I was going to need to go back and sort of reread the whole thing to see how this all concluded and tied together in various ways and all that because I want to see what the bigger, you know,
right. What is
the
going
bigger
on?
story
But
is. Yeah.
yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
don't
we
want to
saw
just read the last issue and go, oh, I think that's how it should have wrapped up. I do want
we
to know
saw
where the
last issue that the whole town essentially has been replaced.
yeah, right.
You know, and this issue ends with Isabel being drawn to that screwed up world by who I'm going to assume is the big bad.
Yeah.
Uh, which
It just becomes why. Is it just because you're
well,
trying to take the whole family?
I
Or
think that she's a key somehow,
okay.
and we just don't know it yet
Right.
because everything. The very first issue, who was it that got captured for the daughter to go rescue?
Oh yeah, yeah.
She rescued this girl,
Yeah.
so they wanted her from the beginning of the
Yeah.
series, and now she's in the well to steal a location. She's in the upside down
Right.
actually because
Yeah.
the trees are anchored to the
Mhm.
sky. But and there is a figure here that says yes here, blonde hair, looks male. I don't know. We can see one eye illuminated. We can't see
Mhm.
the eye itself, but we can see the dot where the eye would be. The other
Yeah.
side of the face, nothing. Uh, now that kind of puts me in mind of one of the ways that I remember seeing Malekith shown. in
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Marvel. One
Hmm.
side of his face was always darkened,
Yep.
being a dark elf, and like he had been burned or something.
Yeah.
And the other side of his face just had normal elven features. I don't know, but yeah. So Isabel is in the upside down world. Casey's daughter is there. Casey was there, but she has been pulled to the real world by the
Hmm.
witch, and Oliver is in the real world. So
I do like a series that keeps me intrigued and questioning all the way to the end.
it's yeah,
So
it
we'll
was.
see how this works out.
I just I wish something. Either I wish that I was more intelligent, or I wish that the cues for what was for where things were going on was a little bit better,
Right. Yeah.
or
No,
maybe
no, I
some
agree with that.
combination of the two. Maybe we could come to some sort of agreement that I will understand what you're trying to tell me
Yeah.
when you do this. But
Yeah.
yeah, but because you're dealing with, like I say, I think at least three different locations, and you're dealing with two people that have, well, you're dealing with one person that has a doppelganger and three people that don't, or so you think.
Hmm.
But you know that one has been replaced. And so if one can be, that means others can be. And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll act in such a way that you're like, was that a replacement? Or is
Right.
that this? And if it's not a replacement, then that means that the real person is in is in the weird world. And not,
Yeah.
and it's like, help me out here. I want to understand. Help me out.
It's like I'm right at the edge, and I
Yeah.
just need
It's like, yeah, it's
that
like
one little piece. And maybe that's
some,
all the next
something is
issue
different.
is just
Mm.
that just that little bit that puts us over the edge, so that we get it
I'll
all.
go with some sort of Fey connection there,
Okay,
and see how that plays out. That'll be my uneducated guess.
it sounds like a plan. All right, let's move on to something that doesn't confuse anybody. It's Creed, the next round, number one.
Okay.
This is written by Latoya Morgan, John Jameson, art by Wilton Santos, colors by DJ Chavis. Letterer is Anworld Design, a bunch of covers. I
Mm.
did pre-order the Boss Logic cover because I thought that was a pretty sweet one. I don't know why it stood out to me, and I was like, I'm gonna grab that one. I did get cover A too, so and then let's see. Editors Kathleen uh,
Wisniewski.
Wineski, and then designer is Grace Park.
I want to make mention that they gave special thanks to a Black American Sign Language consultant,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Roxanne
yeah.
Gummit,
Hmm.
who is an instructor in American Sign Language, deaf culture, and deaf history at George Mason University's College of Education and Human Development.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you, because that is very important for this series. And
Yes, the main character, I think you could call her the main character,
yeah,
apparently is
Mara. Yeah,
deaf. Yeah,
yeah.
so
So this is creative director for this is Michael B. Jordan, who obviously stars in the Creed movies and everything. And this takes place after Creed 3. I've not seen Creed 3 yet. I've seen 1 and 2, and they're
yeah,
really good movies.
I haven't seen 3 either.
Um, so Amara is the daughter. She was born deaf. Um, and at this point, her mother, Bianca, has completely lost her hearing as well. So the Creed family basically uses a mix of BLSL, which is Black American Sign Language, and lip reading to communicate with each other throughout this. So, knowing that going into it, I did try and pay attention to body language, positioning, not to nitpick the artist or anything like that, but to see, where there is a strong effort throughout this entire thing devoted on communication, from word balloons to from lettering, from everything that sort of lets you know anytime there's sign language or anything, the word balloons have like a little hand gesture to let you know that sign language, hand gestures are being used in the discussion, not reading lips or anything like that. So there's a lot of that going on. So I appreciate that. So I was also trying to pay attention to body language, making sure if they're doing lip reading or reading sign language, that they're looking at each other and stuff like that. And there wasn't really any time that I really felt that that was sort of being ignored, which was great. Not that it would have broken anything for me, or maybe think it was a bad issue or anything like that. But if you're going to make a point, and they do make a point of it, that it's being, it is part of the storytelling. So this takes place in 2033 to give you sort of a time placement. It's in Los Angeles. And at this point, Amara has, she's taken after her dad. She likes to be a boxer. And she's really, really good, which obviously makes sense based on who her lineage is, are all very, very good boxers. So she has sort of, what she feels is taken her skills to the limit in which her father has sort of put her in. Like, these are your parameters to fight in. These are your people that you could fight. And so what do? Okay, she's beaten everybody. And so she wants, more challenges, which makes sense. And he's tempted to do that, but he feels like there's some things that need to be, like, he's a dad, so he's trying to, look out for her, and doesn't want her to throw her into the deep end quite yet. Her mom is very, like, supportive of both of them, but trying to get him to understand the daughter's perspective and everything like that. So it's a really, it seems like a very understandable or relatable family dynamic dialogue and stuff like that. So I appreciated that. It wasn't anything that I felt was like way, I'm not even worried about being way out of character from the movies. I'm just looking at it, it's its own thing. This doesn't seem very way out of the ordinary for this particular kind of situation. Not that I could relate to it, but I'm not a world class boxer with with a really good kid who's is good at boxing, but it's it's
What,
a very
you
relatable
mean you're
kind of
not
thing.
Kid Parton? I thought that was you.
No,
Oh, wow.
no,
Okay.
no. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Um,
I thought back in the
but
day.
but it is good. So I really enjoyed all the sort of that family dynamics and everything. Um, at some point, Amara meets up with some friends, and anyway, one thing leads to another. They learn about underground boxing rings and stuff like that, and so Amara wants to go sort of challenge some folks, and she does that and does well. All of this behind her dad's back and her mom's back, for that matter. So they don't know that she's doing this, and she does well. She gets hit a lot, which is something she's not used to, because of the folks that her father's put her up against. So uh but that being said, she doesn't cry about it or anything like that. She just pulls herself up and gets back into the fight like she's supposed to, like she was trained to do, and wins. And so so there's a lot of that. Those kind of themes run through the movies, obviously. If you've ever watched a Rocky movie or the Creed movies, I mean, that's obviously a thing. The the sort of the strength of these characters, to not just to get beaten down or anything, and sort of slither away or anything. They're going to get right up and they're going to get back in your face. um Now she does get a challenger, who I guess she's going to now prepare to fight, because this is this girl Jamie Pierce is top of her game. She's it says she's won by 115 15 wins by knockouts. She's the 2032 Golden Glove champion. She's the number one lightweight amateur boxer. So she's big time. And so Amara's knows who she is, and she's ready to fight her and all this other stuff. So, but she needs to be trained. Her dad doesn't want to do it.
She looks bigger than Amara to me.
Oh, she does. Oh, like almost
So
like 6 or 7 inches taller.
like
And
like
like
a weight class
oh, a
difference at
whole weight
least.
class. Yeah. Like yeah,
Yeah.
when I read that it was like she was lightweight and amateur, I'm like, really? Really? Okay, sure.
Not to be confused with her uh, aunt, who is a freaking beast
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
size.
Yeah,
She
yeah, yeah.
is huge.
Well,
I'm
and
like,
that's
dog.
yeah, that's the thing that I really like is that her dad refuses, to, train her and all, and so sort of the solicitations have always made her, so that, she's gonna go, learn from, somebody who isn't
Right.
her dad, and so you're kinda like, "Well, who's she gonna go learn from?" And so again, it's that, well, I'll go to the next,
So would this be
best
her
fighter
dad's
that I know.
sister?
So it's her, yeah, so
Is
it's
that
his,
who this is?
yeah,
Okay.
this is her aunt, her dad's sister, who apparently they don't have a lot to do with one another. And so that sort of that family conflict and everything. But
So Apollo had at least two
yeah,
kids.
so her aunt is Artemis Creed, the butcher.
The butcher.
52 1 and 0, so no ties. 49 of her 52 wins by knockout.
Knockout. Yeah.
She's the three-time IWBF champion, and she's the former number one WBC and WBA super middleweight champion. So she's good. she she's not a pushover
She's
by any
big, man.
stretch.
She is. I'm like,
And she's a
dude.
head taller than Amara too.
Oh yeah, she is huge.
Oh,
She is
dude.
as big as her husband,
Oh,
and
yeah,
her
yeah,
husband is an athlete. He whatever martial arts, or maybe he's a
yeah.
boxer too.
Oh, and
So
I'm sorry, Adonis is her half brother.
oh, okay,
Yeah, so just for clarity. Um, uh, so but yeah, Amara goes to her and it's like, "I want you to train me." So that's, so we've got the family dynamics, we've got the aunt being brought in who, is as much of a championship fighter as
yeah.
her dad, so there's definitely going to be some family conflict. It's just that, this is, when they say this is Creed the next round, it could be the next movie. And I didn't know that I was going to enjoy it as much as I did.
Yeah, I didn't think
And
I would
because
either, but
I'm not a huge fan of like licenses. Like it took a bit for me to get into and enjoy Power Rangers and Buffy, and those kind of things. But those are kind of in my wheelhouse, kind of. Now I do like the Rocky movies, the Creed movies. I do enjoy all that stuff and I like the characters and stuff like that. But I didn't know how that was going to translate to the comic. So that being said, I'm I'm really glad that I read this. I'm very interested to see where this thing kind of goes. It is a fairly down to earth story because that's who these characters are. But it's got that drama. It's got that that little bite to it and everything. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this thing turns out. Um, it's good
all right.
stuff.
For those of you that don't know, uh, I have been exposed to American Sign Language, ASL.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea. I had never heard of a Black American Sign Language.
Mhm.
Um, BASL typically places gestures around the forehead area, whereas ASL places gestures lower on the body. BASL also uses more space in their signing than what
Hmm.
ASL uses. So those are the major differences between the two, which are enough to be classified differently,
Right.
ASL and BASL.
It's
Okay.
interesting.
Now, um, interestingly enough, this week there is medical documentation of the first confirmed case of CTE in a female athlete.
Mm.
It was a female Australian rules footballer, and I I may be misinformed, but isn't that rugby, or is Australian rules football different?
It. I want to say that sounds like it should be rugby.
I thought that that was rugby, but
Yeah.
when they described her as participating in Australian rules football. So that just came out. Maybe I read that today or
Hmm.
yesterday. And I say that because Adonis is doing everything he can to keep his daughter from getting the crap beat out of her.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That is what he doesn't want to happen. What little we know now about CTE, she only has to have that happen to her once,
Oh yeah.
and she will be affected for the rest of her life.
Oh yeah.
So now, in the story, the scene where she first goes to that underground fight puts me in mind of Lionheart fighting in the
Oh
pool.
yeah.
That is exactly the scene that I thought of, was that scene in Lionheart where he fights in the big pool where she
Hmm.
walks in and sees that.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, you're right.
So um and I, other than now, there is an aspect of the story about where Adonis and Bianca are trying to cash in on Adonis's name in a non physically possibly being hurt way.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they're trying to cash in on what he has done in the past so that neither he nor anyone else in the family has to do anything of that nature to make money to live
Yeah.
in perpetuity. So they're while the daughter is doing all of this, well, I'm going to rebel and do whatever the heck I want to do
Yeah.
stuff. It's because they are not in the scene because they're trying to do this, take care of my daughter so she doesn't
Yeah.
have to spend her life as a professional boxer stuff.
Yeah.
And then she gets ratted out, and I don't know by who, but somebody
Oh
tells
yeah, because
Daddy
he
what
comes
she's
busting
doing.
up in
Oh
there.
yeah, yeah. He gets a is it a no? It's a phone call from
Yeah, he gets a. Oh yeah, it says
Marcus.
yeah, Marquez. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. I wonder if that's that big dude that checked out her ID. It'd be funny if that's who it was.
I'm looking back to see if I can tell if
It is.
someone calls his name out or whatever. But
I
yeah,
don't
there's
see that.
no.
You,
Yeah, nobody's name pops up.
no, and I'm
Um,
flipping through, and I really don't see anybody on a phone. Or no,
well,
here
she even
it's
says that
it's
she
this
didn't
dude
use
right
their
here.
real names.
This dude. Um, on the scene on page, I don't know, the page before he gets the message, the call, there's a
Yeah.
dude with a Creed baseball cap on.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I bet that's him
Yeah. Because
because
he's
he knows
like,
Creed, so
yeah,
he
because he's
knows
like, "Hey, do you
Daddy.
know her?" And she's just like, "No, I'm a fan."
Uh-huh. So
Yeah,
that's Marquez right
yeah.
there.
That's probably you're probably right. Yeah,
So yeah, so he narcs her out to
that's
Daddy,
too funny.
and
I
Daddy
can't
comes
go
running in.
anywhere without you knowing somebody.
Yep, but absolutely, man. And so he's the one that runs in and stops the fight with the
Yeah,
lightweight champ,
yeah,
Jamie Pierce. So saves her from that, and yeah. What else? I guess that's it. She looks up her half aunt or whatever it's going to turn out to be, and
yeah. That's
says she wants to train.
that's gonna be pretty interesting.
Good art too. I really enjoyed the
Yeah,
art.
it's really good. Yeah, yeah. There's a fine line that a licensed property, an artist on a licensed property has to sort of you you've got to well, I mean, I know with previous companies and stuff like that who have had like the Buffy license and stuff like that, where I've heard I don't say nightmares, but definitely, artistic problems trying to get sign off on likenesses. And this is very, you know,
Very likeness.
very spot on without being like super, without being photorealistic.
Right
Yeah, and that
now,
that's that line that's really hard to
I
not
wonder if it
cross.
helps having Michael Jordan involved.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because he can tell her, no, this person. Um, speaking of licensed properties, what did the writer for Power Rangers say on the video portion of the podcast today from Boom when they asked her if she had any uh, pushback from doing anything she wanted to do with the characters. Do you remember what she said?
Well, I do remember.
They asked her, were you able to do anything that you wanted to do, or what were you not able to do, or something like that was the question.
Right, I forget what she said. I remember how she said
Get
that
get
she was there at
Hasbro's
the beginning.
approval. That she said that's the only thing that she had to do was get Hasbro's approval.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't
So
remember. Yeah.
that is, and I say that in reference to licensed properties.
Mhm.
It has to be approved.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Whatever you're doing
Yeah, there's
now,
somebody who's got the the legal control
and
over
I'm
those things.
I'm wondering if that's Michael Jordan
Um, I don't know because I forget how that whole
or if it's the
who
studio.
owns what,
Yeah,
when it comes to that movie and those characters. Because I know they went a different direction in the third movie, and he took a bit more control over it. I think didn't he even direct it?
I thought he directed it. Yeah.
So, but there was another producer that was involved with it that didn't want Stallone's input on the third movie, which is why Stallone's not in the movie.
Well, I
Um,
mean, there's no
but
reason to have his input.
no, no, and I think it
You
was
know,
more um, handing the movie off.
he he
You
can
know,
certainly at this point in his career carry a movie like that. Yes,
yeah.
I mean
So,
he's
oh yeah,
he's
yeah.
proven
Michael B.
that.
Jordan,
So
oh yeah, he's definitely top tier.
yeah, he's a list.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah.
As much as Stallone helps, obviously, just for
Well,
nostalgia's sake.
maybe
But he's
not so
definitely
much anymore. I mean,
created well,
that's
these movies have definitely created a series or a set of characters that easily stand on their own.
yes, very
So
much so.
so yeah.
But yeah, good. Definitely, it's like, well, what's going to happen? Well, she's going to train and she's going to beat the.
Right.
I mean, I hope there is something other than the obvious
Yeah.
that happens. There's a part of me that hopes that she goes and it's the old story, just like these other boxers have encountered. She goes, she trains, she gets whooped,
Yeah.
she gets back up, does it again, wins, and then quits.
Yeah.
That's what I hope happens, because
Oh
that would
yeah.
be the intelligent thing to do.
Well, I think by the fourth issue, like you were talking about, the whatever the licensing deal or whatever that needs to be made that Adonis is trying to get signed in,
Mhm.
to whatever that is, I think that's going to come down to the last issue as far as the reveal of what exactly that's for and all that stuff. So,
Yeah,
but
he's
yeah,
he's going a more traditional route, but then his wife is like, let's hold off on this traditional and let's look at this non-traditional kind of stuff
right,
here,
yeah,
and
yeah,
try going with that. And it's like, dog, if that non-traditional works out, you will be rolling in the
oh yeah,
dough.
oh for sure, yeah,
What she's thinking about doing, it's like, oh yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's not NFTs.
No, no, it's not NFT.
NFTs don't exist in 2033 anymore.
Well, do NFTs even exist
Exist
now?
now? Okay.
Yeah, do they really exist? Okay. Anyways,
All right. So where do you want to go from here? Got a couple more.
uh, let's see. What have we got left? What did I read?
Here, I'll go ahead and preface, but don't give me Wild Zen
Oh,
because, like I said, me trying to remember what happened with Wild Zen, I'm like, oh my
okay.
god.
I'll talk Wild Zen. I really enjoyed it. Okay, yeah, Wild Zen. This is the first issue of, in essence, what is going to be the third chapter. Now, for those of you that go looking, don't be confused, because if I recall, I believe the first chapter was broken into 2 or 3 parts.
Yeah, that's what
And
confused me when
yeah,
this
the
when
the
this one
only
got
reason
solicited.
I
Yeah,
am using the word chapters is because the second installment was all in one trade. That's how
yeah,
it came out, period. And so it's easy for me to think of that as a chapter, since it all
mhm,
came out in one piece. So everything before it would have to be the first chapter, and this would be the third, using that logic. But yeah, the first one came out in, I think, 3 parts of like 4 issues each. So
yeah,
you're like, well, Aren't those well, yeah, they're subchapters, really. Um, hey,
They
Doug, you've
didn't
got
really
some
know
pace
how they were
now.
gonna tell the overall story because they
Yeah.
didn't know how popular it'd be.
Yep. Okay. So this is brought to us, is created by Dan Abnett and INJ Colbert, written by Mr. Abnett, and illustrated and lettered by INJ Colbert, with additional material by Nick Abnett. Not sure what additional material means. I don't know if that's
Mm-mm.
writing help or if that's artistic help or who knows. Both. I don't know. Uh, Several covers, two designers, Grace Park and Nancy Mojica, I
Hmm.
believe. I apologize, Miss Nancy, if that is incorrect. And I always get distracted whenever I see Daphne Pleban's
Oh, yeah.
name,
Yeah.
because I always think of 15 Minutes of Wade.
Right, yeah.
I that you know, I didn't even necessarily know who she was, but she was introduced at the beginning of every episode of that show.
Yeah.
So, that's, and anytime I think of that, 15 Minutes Away goes through my head when I
She's
see her
been there
name.
for a
That's what.
while. Been involved for a long time.
Okay, so um, the Wild's End world, first of all, for those of you that are not familiar, is an anthropomorphic world. Everyone is think. Everyone is mammals, actually. Now that I think about it, I believe. Doug, if you remember otherwise, let me know. Chris, do you remember otherwise?
That's what I was trying to think of.
Any turtles, alligators?
Yeah, I don't
I,
remember any.
I don't think so either. Aliens in the
Well,
previous
yeah.
series, and maybe in this series. Yeah, we don't know. But anthropomorphic. Now, I have a question for anyone out there. Oh, and for Chris, I'm not sure if you know this. Um, Throughout the first half or better of the book, we have this radio broadcast that
Yes.
is part of, uh, part of the background. I don't think it really plays a part that I noticed when I read them. The very first one we see is telling us, you see a radio, it's been turned on, and it's just sitting here in the second panel, and there's a sound bubble. It says, Maritime shipping forecast for the 19th of April issued by the Meteorological Office. South Hensmouth, variable 4 or less. Become 5 or 6 later. Moderate showers at first. Good. Now, I understand those words, and I believe I understand what it's telling me to a point. I didn't know there were. Oh, Doug, there is something, sir, for you to look forward to. Absolutely. There are two more stories that are interconnected.
Okay.
One, as I said, the second one came out only in trade paperback. It's a collected. But the first volume of this is either 8 or 12 issues in 3 sets. You can definitely find a trade for each of the 4 issue sets, but I don't know if they ever collected all of them in one book. But
I don't think so.
two
Yeah.
two more very, very entertaining stories. Well, 2 more stories. One was very entertaining. To be honest, I have not managed to get a hold of or read the second one yet. So I have not read it. I've been looking since this one was announced, and I have not been able to get um, a copy to my liking made available. Well, we'll just put it
Oh,
that
okay,
way.
gotcha.
As far as these broadcasts, anybody out there who has knowledge of maritime stuff, is this real? I mean, is this a reasonable thing that we are seeing from the radio? So that's my question. Um, so we are introduced to Skipper. Okay, his daughter Flo. Now, all of these people work on a fishing boat. That's where we're set for the first 85 or 90% of this story is on a fishing boat. Everybody is coming off their off time to the boat. The boat goes out to sea for 30 days, comes back into town, and after coming back into town, there's 2 or 3 pages left of the story. So, Skipper Flo, his daughter, who works the boat with him, Roddy, we have Howie, Stevie, and we have Eddie Kettle, who is Skipper's grandson. So it is the son to Flo's sister, Viv. Okay. Viv is currently married and her husband is alive. Kind of important to Eddie's development, actually,
Right. Yeah.
besides the obvious. Flo was married, no kids. Her husband is dead. He died in the war. Now, this the story seems to be set in my mind an English setting, like
Hmm.
the country of England or uh, United Kingdom. Doesn't have to be English. I believe that everybody is speaking English. I didn't pick up any goofy writings of any accents or anything like that. Um, between World War One and World War Two, or a very similar historical technological setting.
Hmm.
And as I said, the entire world is anthropomorphic. Um, so everybody is coming from their off time, their spouses and their families and whatever, and they're all. We've seen this scene if you've watched any of the fishing boat kind of shows, Real Tuna, or any of these others that are on the Home and Garden TV. They're coming to the fishing boat, getting the fishing boat ready, and they're going off for another season. Is
Yeah.
what they're doing. 30 days. Near the end of the 30 days, some things happen that they choose to come back after 30 days. Normally, they would have been out there longer, is the way I took it. But some things happen, and they decide that they need to come back for various reasons. Um, we find some stuff out about the characters. Like I say, Flo, her husband, has died in the war. She had no kids, nothing else to do, so she came to help Daddy on his fishing boat, and she has stayed there. Uh, don't know how long necessarily. By the characterization between Flo and her sister, I am of the impression that Flo is the younger of those two daughters. Um, Viv, just the way that she is drawn, just looks older. Now, Skipper, Flo, and Viv are dogs. Okay, if you're wanting to keep track of the animals. Um, Eddie Kettle, that's Viv's son. He is a miscreant. Can't seem to keep himself out of trouble. Dad got him a job where Dad works, which is over at the quarry. But Eddie goobered that up, so he's exhausted that possibility. So that's Dad trying to do something to put him on the right track. Well, it's Mom's turn to put him on the right track, and fortunately, she has a dad, who runs a fishing boat, so we can send Eddie on the fishing boat and see if that'll help him get
It'll
his
be
life started.
fine.
You know, and Grandpa Skipper, he's like, yeah, he's my grandson. Come on, we'll see, what he can do. He's willing to give him a shot. Roddy is a badger. I think he's a badger.
Yeah.
He is of the opinion that he is first mate of the ship. I think Flo is of the opinion that she's first mate of the
Oh
ship.
yeah.
And her opinion may have a little bit more weight because her dad is the captain. So I would say that Flo is probably right. A little bit of back and forth, particularly in Roddy's mind, about, well, Skipper's getting ready to retire soon, and he certainly looks like somebody that is getting ready to retire soon. Skipper is an old basset hound looking
Oh yeah.
mofo. He is pardon the word, but he is dogged. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
And there's even some comments made to him where he's not in the present day.
yeah, he's a little bit addled at
Yeah.
this point in his life, and things don't necessarily match up in his head and in reality, and yeah. So Roddy is thinking that here soon, he's going to be able to take over Skipper's fishing boat because Skipper's going to give it to him, and that's good for Roddy because he's got a woman that doesn't want to marry him, be with him unless he can provide, and getting this ship and being the captain of the ship is that key to providing that will enable her to see her way to marry Roddy. So he's kind of hung up on that. Howie and Stevie are twins, but they're not twins. They're twins because they look like mirror images of each other, because they're cats and they're partially colored. The coloring of the cats are broken. They're colored one way on one side and one color on the other, and then the other cat is the opposite. Kind of like the two races on the original Star Trek series that Kirk Douglas was a member of.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
they had black on one side and white on,
Yeah.
but the other race was inferior because they had black on this side
Yeah.
and white on this. Yeah. So, uh, but they are from completely different parents, so they're not twins. But in appearance, they're twins.
Mhm.
And then you have Eddie. He comes in right at the end of the pre-launch before the boat takes off, and there's a little bit of back and forth between Flo and Viv and Eddie and Skipper, and you get all this information about who's dead and who's not, and what Eddie's been up to and everything. And Eddie is a very typical, doesn't want to do it, but is made to do it teenager. So he's going along with it until it's done, kind of. That's the attitude that I saw in him. And he doesn't seem to have a whole lot of real life experience. So many of the things on the ship that he is asked to do, he is not trained to do
Oh
them.
yeah.
He would be capable probably if he were trained to do it, but
Yeah.
he hasn't been, and so that torques Roddy off to no extent, because he is used to working with people that all know that when
Yeah.
he uses certain words and certain phrases, they know what it means and they go do it. Well, Eddie doesn't have that kind of experience, so he has no idea. So he's, yeah. So that's the situation with Eddie. Part of it, of course, is his doing, but a large extent is not. I mean,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
we all remember being teenagers. We had to start. We did not start with what we know now, 30
No.
and 40 years later.
No.
So, that's where Eddie is. Eddie doesn't have any of that knowledge. Everyone else on the boat does. So, the skipper, it's hard to really tell what he thinks. Flo understands that. Roddy does not understand that, and Howie and Stevie are kind of ambivalent to it.
Yeah.
They're doing
Yeah.
their own thing. So we all go out and we start to fishing. We get some interactions between the different personalities there on the ship. Um, we start noticing some stuff. There's some the seas, the waters, the ocean is not normal. Several nights we notice meteor showers occurring. Eventually, at one point, the radio kicks off, and they don't get that information about whatever that is. If it's tide, if it's sea depth, if it whatever that information is that we've been seeing. That's part of what I hope somebody out there knows and can tell me what all that means.
Yeah.
I understand the individual words and numbers, but all put together like that, I don't know what they mean. Several instances of Eddie just probably being in the way more on the ship than
Right. Yeah.
not. But again, dude's never done it before. He's got to start somewhere. And Roddy certainly doesn't have the personality to teach, but I think he just needs somebody to take him under their wing, show him what to do, and as a moderately intelligent creature, he would be able to do it. He
Hmm.
just doesn't know, you know. And plus, too, maybe he does make more mistakes than the rest of them do, but then that's because even though he knows how to do it, he's not used to doing it. He's
Right.
17. This is the first time he's been out of the nest. Obviously, the same kind of stuff was going on for him over at the quarry, and they were just like, "No, we can't deal with this. Go away." So, I guess the quarry only hires experienced people. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah. So,
It's a dangerous job.
okay,
So is being on the boat too.
but you can find things for people to do. I mean,
Oh
there are
yeah.
plenty of jobs. He could stay down in the kitchen, keep
Oh
it
yeah.
clean, keep it indexed, and know how much they have of the different. Yeah, there's stuff they could do, but
Yeah.
um, so things keep progressing until finally, it even gets to the point where they are just not catching the fish that they are catching no fish, not just not the fish that they normally do, but there are several days where their pull is zero. They
Hmm.
catch nothing, and so they're like, well, with all this and the weird oceans and the radio and we got to take in what we do have in the boat, or else it'll go bad. So after 30 days, they decide to go home, and they go home, and when they get home to port, there they notice some things are weird. First off, as soon as they get to the docks, there's somebody's um, catch haul that has just been left to spoil, and
Yeah.
and the barrels are just lining the dock, and the fish in them has spoiled because it's just been left there. So it was unloaded, but then it was left. So then they start looking around. They notice that some of the work that was being done in town, that the mayor was particularly proud of, has been undone for some reason, or it didn't get done like it was looking like it was going to be
Hmm.
done when they left. So something's going on. They go to, is it Roddy's place?
Yeah.
Yeah, they go to Roddy's place, and they find that the tropey kind of the food is on the table, like they were getting ready to eat, but it was just left. And it's been left so long that it's moldy. So they know it's been a while. So that is uber, uber weird. So then they start looking around. And probably the most telling thing is they find a bench here at this old building. And this is the bench where old Pat is always sitting. And then Roddy notices, he's like, what's this burn mark on the
Right.
wall
Yeah.
here? And then the angle and everything, you can't necessarily tell. But when you step back, you notice that it looks like an outline. There's something in it, and then there's a burn mark, and then the rest of
Hmm.
the wall. So, like a flame hit something and incinerated it, and just a little bit of the flame went past whatever it was and scorched
Yeah.
the wall, which is odd. But then when they start looking, they notice that old Pat's shoes are under the bench here. And when they inspect the shoes, they notice that it's not just his shoes, his feet are still
Mm.
in the shoes.
When I read
So
that, I just went, hmm.
so then what you're left with is the thought that he was sitting on the bench and he got incinerated, and that's what the
Yeah.
scorch mark was, and it lopped off his feet and
Yeah.
left his shoes down there. And that's where the story ends. We have some newspaper articles to kind of give you flavor from the town side of things for the last month while they were out at sea. And this is writing some articles about the work that was going on at the town in the town that I referenced, improvements there, which actually this looks a lot like the alien uh, vessel that attacked the critters in the very first series.
Oh yeah.
This
Hmm.
light post here looks very much like that.
Hmm.
Article about the shooting stars, um, and then just some other flavor stuff from the paper.
For the newspaper to only have the one journalist working for it, very busy,
Hmm.
very very busy newspaper.
Well, what did they say that the newspaper was mainly? Um,
Oh,
Wait, let's see if I can find that real quick. Obviously, I can't real quick. Would you? I can't believe it. Can I just? Hey, what's up? Okay, not there. Let's see. Yeah,
oh, the Gazette. It says the Gazette is all small ads and wanteds.
hey,
New
there you
lamp.
go.
Yeah. So that's That's really all it is. There's
Uh,
quite a
I've
few
written enough
articles in there.
headlines about him, what with the cherry bombs and the firecrackers and the broken windows, and there was
Oh,
an
yeah,
article
yeah.
in the
That was
paper
another one, yeah.
that's about Eddie. Those are
Yeah.
the kind of things he's gotten to because he has too much free time,
Poor kid.
which we all remember what having too much free time was like.
Seriously.
So, and it's all very distinctly in the past,
Yes.
having too much free time.
Yes.
So that's where we are, and it's I think, Doug, for you, if you haven't read any of the other books, you would get a very different flavor from the story than I did having read at least the first volume.
Mm.
Because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, something similar must be going to happen in
Yeah.
this volume, um, based on what I read in the first volume. Now, maybe not. I don't know. I suspect it is, but good stuff. I enjoy it very much. I like the use of the anthropomorphic characters.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I like I like it in this setting too. I think
Yes,
it's a very interesting time setting to be doing it in.
time and place. It gives it a very
Yeah.
distinctive flavor, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't do it this one, but I remember there were always maps in the first volume. That was
Yeah.
always so cool.
Well, especially for you.
Yeah, you know, we
Yeah.
all have our hangups.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. We'll wrap things up with Seasons Have Teeth number 3 of 4. This is written by, or it's created by Dan Waters and Sebastian Cabral. Written by Dan Waiters, illustrated by Sebastian Cabral, colored by Dan Jackson. Letter by Nate uh, Picos of Blambot. A couple covers here. Design and logo by Marie uh, Capunia. Wow.
Krupina,
Just going to throw some extra syllables in there.
Krupina,
It's
Krupina,
Krupina.
Krupina,
Sure.
Kru-
I
Krupina,
apologize for destroying your name and then
Marie
picking it back up
Krupina.
and then throwing it back on the ground again. I
What
didn't
what
mean to
was the
step on it.
what was the person's name here that did the cover?
uh, no, no.
I'm sorry. That
That
that was a
is
setup.
that is unfortunate
That was a
for
setup.
me to try and say that. So, for a book that I enjoy, I cannot pronounce anyone's name because I went to public schools. Um, so, um, the whole point of this miniseries is our lead character is in the hunt for the seasonal monsters, and each season is embodied by one of these monsters, and so he has uh, made it his focus in life now that his wife has died and he has basically no reason to live. He's going to put himself in harm's way in order to take uh, the up close and personal shots of these monsters. Um, it feels like the first issue. I think it sort of accidentally happened, and he got the shot. And last issue was very much um, put yourself in danger. And then I feel the third issue here with Autumn, because he decided to go into Chernobyl or the surrounding
Mhm.
uh, uh, land, town uh, around the facility, which still is very radioactive. Just yeah, sure. We're just gonna take my Geiger counter and my camera and my backpack, and we're just gonna go just tramping into to Chernobyl. So yeah, so he's looking for Autumn at this point, and so that's obviously the gist of this particular issue. But what I like with this issue is that we've been getting more um uh about his past and about his wife and sort of what he was like and this redemption that he's looking for, trying to make things up to his wife and everything like that. And you come to find out that in this issue that he spent a lot of time as his wife was, um, sick and dying. He was using her as not as a not as an inspiration to um, be creative or whatever. He was basically using her as she was dying as a series of like shots for uh, for an article or series of articles, just to watch. This is how someone looks and feels, and just as they're dying. And I think it was at the beginning of it was done sort of to help her and help him, kind of be involved in each other's lives and sort of keep that line of communication open and stuff like that. But even he says that he could feel that as she, as time went on, that she began to shun away from the camera, and was he was beginning to feel that what he was doing was more cruel to her than it was helpful. And no, neither one of them would open up to each other and say that. They wouldn't admit to that. So he's more left in speculation that that's what was happening. And um so that's sort of lingering with him. So um
Okay. Let me jump in here.
okay.
That is the nice version.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I
was being very nice about that.
I think in to me the version is that Andrew Bates became pretty much a dick
Oh, for
and
sure.
took advantage of his wife and
Mhm.
took advantage of the situation. At more to the point is he knowingly did that.
Oh yeah,
While he was doing that, he came to that realization
yeah.
and continued through to her death
Oh yeah, because he
doing
even
that. It
says that when she died upstairs, like she fell, like she didn't even die of her disease.
right,
She died because he wasn't with her because he was too busy on the computer trying to get the photos to his editor.
right,
So,
doing the story. Also, there is a parallel with there are two stories occurring throughout this series. One is the story of these monsters,
mhm,
and they have been named for the seasons. I don't know exactly why we haven't,
right, yeah.
and they embody the season to some extent, but not like hardcore. So I don't know where that started, calling them by
Yeah,
the
I would like
seasonal
some
names.
explanation on that.
But also, the seasons are the seasons of his relationship to and with his wife.
Mhm,
So we have already seen the summer of his relationship with his wife and the spring,
yeah,
and now we're in the autumn and she dies.
yeah,
And so the only season that is left is the winter,
yep,
uh, which we do find out in this is going to occur in England, I think, because that's where winter was cited.
yeah,
An
yeah,
article says. So yeah, so he is perhaps difficult to um, feel sorry for, even starting out at the beginning. There's something to me that was always just kind of off about him. So I didn't
mhm.
necessarily find him sympathetic, or I couldn't be just completely sympathetic to his character.
Yeah, I don't know
Uh,
if I ever felt sympathetic toward him. He more felt like he was just the tool that the writer was using
Something
to
there,
introduce.
yeah,
Yeah,
there was something off about
yeah,
his character. Now, with the admissions in this issue, I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, let's see what happens in the fourth issue
Oh,
and
yeah,
put
yeah,
this
yeah.
book down because the dude is not, he's
Yeah,
not worth it.
I'm
It's
really the a after we got to the part where she dies,
uh,
and he sort of breaks down and is like, whoever was with him was like, "Oh, there was nothing you could do."
yeah, that
And
was
he
an
was like, "No, no,
EMT or
no.
one of
I
the
wasn't even with her to do anything." she wouldn't have fallen if I had been there, if I hadn't, been so self-absorbed and trying to do all, and while yes, he is, I think he's in the present day not exactly trying to make up for that, but is definitely coming to terms with just how horrible of a person he was to her.
Yeah.
I am kind of hoping in the fourth issue that he gets his, that Winter definitely puts him through the ringer, but I
Well,
don't know if that's going to happen or not. I don't know
maybe
if
he'll.
that is going to make me feel better
Mm,
or if that's just going to give him a way out.
yeah, I don't. For me, I don't think really anything would make me feel better because
Right.
what's been done has been done, and
Yeah.
that can't be taken away.
True.
That
Yeah.
yucky feeling. So it's like, well, let's just see what you do with your final photograph, and
Yeah.
yeah.
But it has been a pretty interesting miniseries up to this
Yes.
point because like even when we got to the end of the first issue, like I had said something along the line. This was definitely not the book that I was expecting
Mm.
when I saw the solicitations for it, saw the cover art and stuff like that. Yeah, it does have these monsters in it, but there's such a background character to what's really going
Oh yeah,
on.
it is
Um,
definitely a character study,
yeah.
and that is not what I would have thought, or even after the first issue, not necessarily expected. Although I could see that that is something that could be done
Oh yeah,
after
yeah,
that first issue.
yeah,
Um, Certainly before reading the first issue, solicits and whatnot, it's like a character study about monster. No, it's
right,
not about monsters.
yeah.
It's not. So
It's like Walking
very different
Dead that
book.
has zombies, but it's not about the
It's
zombies.
not about the zombie, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Which, I
do.
mean, you can't tell people that because they're like, "Well, they're everywhere."
Right.
But yeah, you're right, but yeah.
I do applaud Waters and Cabral for this story. I do think it's a really
Mm, mhm.
good, very mature book that I do think I can recommend this trade to folks who are looking for a very different character driven
Right,
story.
something different.
Yeah.
It's definitely a higher order of storytelling.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think even, even considering comic books, it's kind of a higher
Oh
order,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
story, type of story.
Yeah. So I still enjoy it even though our lead disgusts me. So
Yeah, and I
but
I don't
that's
know
okay.
if it'll be answered, but I'm curious as to what these things are. Where did they
Right.
come from? I'm
Oh yeah,
not
I
that
do
that's
want some of
important,
that. Yeah.
because like we've said, the story's about him. It's not
Yeah.
about them. But it's like, oh, okay, I see that. But you still introduce these things, and I still have questions.
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh yeah, yeah. I
they're
do
still
hope we
there.
get
So
that if we
it's
even if we get so I don't want a back matter kind of thing.
mm,
I don't want an essay in the back of the issue that sort of gives me that conclusion. If you're not going to tell me in the story, don't tell me at all.
they
Um
haven't given us anything. I don't
yeah.
think they've hinted at anything at all. I don't think it's even been really discussed in the books.
Yeah.
So I suspect that it's just going to be part of the setting
Yeah.
of the book.
Yeah.
Now I do have a question. After being bitten by this nasty sheep, is he going to have some nasty disease
Yeah, I am kind of
to,
curious.
to
We
carry
didn't even
over
talk
into the
about
next issue?
the radiated sheep and all the
That
radiated wolves and like
well,
oh
but the sheep, it's more than just radiated. It's some sort of um, supernatural kind of creature because uh, in the scene where it has walked out of the forest,
yeah.
look at this one leg that
Oh
the hoof
yeah,
is
it's
not
just
even
sort of
attached.
floating. Yeah, it's not even
Yeah,
attached. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like, no, there's something metaphysical going on with these
Yeah.
monsters or whatever has done this, which I assume it's the monster that did this to the sheep and
Oh
not
yeah,
the
yeah.
Chernobyl.
But
So
yeah, but the fact he just like almost bites the guy's fingers off. I was like,
yeah,
yep, that's gonna leave a mark.
yeah, really, that can't be good.
we'll we'll come back to that next issue. There'll be like 2 fingers missing or something like that.
And really, that's the first time that he has been adversely affected by something having to do with
Yeah,
these monsters. He
yeah.
has managed to avoid it largely with the
Mhm.
previous 2 seasons, but yeah, this one he wasn't able to, or uh, which makes me wonder why. In, in the story that we've
He has
seen,
miraculously survived things.
well, and why do this to him here now? What
Yeah.
as the writer, as the story itself, what is the point of that? Because it didn't seem to affect him at all for the rest of the book. It's not
Oh, no.
like,
No.
he got poisoned and now not that we saw. So I'm like, well, then why did you do that? Why did you give us that here?
Right.
If you really wanted to do that, have him get poisoned at the beginning and see it
Well, and
progressing
what's
as it
even
goes. But
funnier is that even though he gets bitten and poisoned, he's still trying to save the lamb.
oh yeah,
And
well, I
which
don't
is
know
like
that he's poisoned. I mean, we see
or
his
well, you
hand in
get
several
bit,
other
we'll just say.
places, but
But still, he
so
still attempts to save the lamb. And I'm
mhm.
like, why?
Is
That thing
that
you've admitted you know this thing isn't okay.
Is that a character thing? I mean, is that what we're supposed to take from it?
I
Some insight into
guess.
his character, him trying to make up for, yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting story.
I don't. It's very curious.
Yeah.
I would really like to talk to them about. Okay, explain to me what this story was from your perspective,
Right. Yeah.
and then after that, my follow up question would be, why did you use monsters named after seasons? How
Oh
did you
yeah,
get
yeah.
these 2 things
Yeah.
together to,
Yeah.
because they seem very disparate to me. The story of him and these kaiju that, yeah, I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
How do you, yeah, it's- unless maybe each monster is based on some uh mythological monster of some
Hmm.
pantheon or something, and he was doing that research and he wanted to bring that into a story, so
Yeah.
he picked 3 or 4 it's like, yeah,
It's
so
interesting. The character designs are for the monsters are very,
mhm,
very unique. So
yeah, yeah,
they're either pulling from some source uh or Cabral is just like, hey, I got some ideas.
yeah, you do it. We need an autumn monster. What's he
Right.
gonna look like?
Right.
Send me
What's it go?
something.
What's a good? Give me a couple options.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, so yeah, looking forward to the last issue of this miniseries and getting some kind of conclusion. I don't know what it'll be, but
yeah. What
we'll
what is
see.
closure gonna be on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Okay. All right. Anything else before we head out of here?
No, I don't think so. I think
Cool.
I'm good.
Well, appreciate everybody for listening and watching. If you've watched us through the live stream or if you've come back and watched us on YouTube, thank you very much for doing all of that. We had a good time getting back. We did run a bit long, but hey, we're trying to catch up too. So, um, but you get a little extra.
Yeah,
That's what it's
it's
there
not
for.
too bad.
No, it's not too bad. So you can come by the website, comicaddiction.net, boomaddiction.com. You can come by our Facebook group, Fans of Boom Studios. You can participate there. Please do. You can find us on Twitter at Boom Addiction. You can follow Ed at Teal Productions. You can follow me at Chris Parton. You can email the show at boomaddiction at gmail.com. Let's see. I've done everything from the top of my brain. Is that it?
I
Is
think
that
so.
so?
Let us know if you want one of these. We may be able to hook you up for uh, a nominal uh, 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 thing that you have to do.
A nominal thing you have to do.
Yeah, not money.
What what Ed's trying to say is like we may or may not have a weird contest that we may or may
Yeah,
not
some kind of
explain all the way
contest.
through.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, but we do have a couple copies of those. So, um, and I would like to do some contests. I would like to do something, give away some books. So as we get closer to our 10th anniversary at the end of the month, and as we're getting closer to episode 100 and all those cool things that we're going to be doing, yeah, definitely like to be giving away some stuff. So, but yeah, everybody, thank you all for listening. Ed, as always, thank you, sir, for joining me.
Yes, sir.
We will catch all of you next week. Goodbye.
Ciao.
All right, Doug, if you're still with us, and I think you're still with us. Thanks for hanging with us. I'm gonna end the broadcast real quick so Ed and I can go over a couple things. It's 11:23 on my end, and I am exhausted. But I did want to talk to Ed about some stuff. So we will catch you later. Goodbye.
Bye, Doug.